On a dark and stormy night, a poor young man sat alone in his broken house with only one piece of bread left to survive. Outside, cold winds shook the village while heavy rain covered the empty roads. Suddenly, someone knocked on his door. When he opened it, he saw a weak and tired stranger standing in the rain, begging for shelter. The young man had nothing, yet he invited the stranger inside and shared his last meal without hesitation. But what he didn't know was terrifying and unbelievable at the same time. By the next morning, royal soldiers would surround his tiny house, and the entire village would fall to their knees in shock. Long ago, in a small village surrounded by dry fields and dusty roads, there lived a poor young man named Arham. He owned nothing except a tiny broken house and a heart full of kindness. His clothes were old, his shoes were torn, and many nights he slept hungry. Every morning before sunrise, he walked to the town searching for work. Some days he carried heavy sacks in the market. Other days he worked under the burning sun in the farms. Even after working all day, he barely earned enough money for food. But despite his difficult life, Arham never lost his kindness. Whenever he saw someone in trouble, he helped them without expecting anything in return. If an old man struggled to walk, Arham helped him cross the road. If a hungry child cried in the market, he shared his food. The villagers often laughed at him. "You are poor yourself," they would say. "Why waste your food on others?" Arham would simply smile and reply, "Kindness is the greatest wealth." Far away from the village, the king of the kingdom had become deeply worried. His palace was filled with rich ministers and powerful people, but he no longer trusted anyone. Many people pretended to be kind only to gain rewards and money. The king wanted to know if true honesty and goodness still existed in his kingdom. So one evening, he secretly left the palace wearing simple clothes like an ordinary traveler. No guards, no royal carriage, no crown. As night fell, dark clouds covered the sky. Soon a violent storm began. Heavy rain poured from the heavens while strong winds shook the trees. The king lost his way in the darkness. Wet, cold, and exhausted, he searched desperately for shelter. After walking for hours, he noticed a faint light glowing from a small broken house near the edge of the village. The king slowly knocked on the wooden door. Inside, Arham was sitting near a weak fire, holding the last piece of bread he had for dinner. When he opened the door and saw the tired stranger standing in the rain, he immediately invited him inside. "Please come in," Arham said kindly. "You look freezing." The stranger entered the tiny house. Rainwater dripped from his clothes, and his face looked tired and pale. Arham quickly placed his only blanket near the fire so the stranger could warm himself. "I'm sorry," Arham said softly. "My house is small, and I only have simple food." Then he broke his last piece of bread into two halves and handed one half to the stranger. The king looked at him in silence. This young man was clearly poor and hungry himself, yet he was sharing everything he had without hesitation. "Why would you help a stranger?" the king asked. Arham smiled gently. "My parents taught me that helping others is never a loss," he replied. "A good heart is more valuable than gold." The king became curious. "But people in this world respect money more than kindness," he said. Arham stared quietly into the fire before answering. "Maybe that is true," he said, "but money cannot buy peace, honesty, or love. A rich man with an empty heart is poorer than a hungry man with kindness." The king was deeply shocked by his wisdom. That entire night, they talked about life, suffering, dreams, and humanity. For the first time in many years, the king felt he was speaking to someone truly honest. The next morning, loud sounds suddenly echoed outside the house. Horses, soldiers, voices shouting everywhere. Arham rushed outside in confusion. To his horror, dozens of royal soldiers surrounded his tiny house. The villagers gathered nearby, terrified and confused. Then something unbelievable happened. The poor traveler stepped outside, and the soldiers immediately bowed before him. "Your Majesty," they shouted. Arham froze in shock. His face turned pale as he realized the stranger he had sheltered was actually the king himself. The villagers could not believe their eyes. The same poor young man they mocked every day had spent the night with the king. The king stepped forward and looked at Arham with pride. "This young man," he announced loudly, "has shown more humanity and honesty than many rich men in my palace." The villagers lowered their heads in shame. The king continued, "Last night, when I was cold, hungry, and alone, this poor young man shared his final piece of bread with me. He expected nothing in return. That is the mark of a truly noble person." Then the king made a surprising decision. He offered Arham an important position in the royal palace and gifted him a new home, land, and enough wealth to change his life forever. Tears filled Arham's eyes. But even after becoming wealthy, he never changed. He continued helping the poor, feeding the hungry, and treating everyone with kindness and respect. Years later, people across the kingdom still remembered the story of the poor young man whose kindness touched the heart of a king. And the villagers finally understood an important truth. True greatness does not come from money or power. It comes from kindness, honesty, and a pure heart. If you like this story, subscribe to our channel Hikayat Hub, press the bell icon, and don't forget to like and share the video. Thank you for your support.